The Catlins comprises an area in the southeastern corner of the South Island of New Zealand. The area lies between Balclutha and Invercargill, straddling the boundary between the Otago and Southland regions. It includes the South Island's southernmost point, Slope Point, a rugged, sparsely populated area. The Catlins features a scenic coastal landscape and dense temperate rainforest, both of which harbour many endangered species of birds, most notably the rare yellow-eyed penguin. The coast attracts numerous marine mammals, among them New Zealand fur seals and Hoka's sea lions. In general terms, the area enjoys a maritime temperate climate. Its exposed location leads to its frequently wild weather and heavy ocean swells, which are an attraction to big wave surfers, and have also caused numerous shipwrecks. People have lived in the area since around 1350 AD. Prior to European settlement, the region was sparsely inhabited by nomadic groups of Maori, most of whom lived close to river mouths. In the early days of European settlement, the area was frequented by whalers and sealers, and sawmilling became a major local industry from the mid-19th century until the 1930s. Ecotourism has become of growing importance in the Catlins economy, which otherwise relies heavily on dairy farming and fishing. The region's population has fallen to less than half its peak in the early 20th century. Some 1,200 people now live in the Catlins, many of them in the settlement of Owaka. This is linked to population centers to the north and southwest via the area's only major road, part of the southern scenic route. Owaka contains the area's main school, the Catlins Area School, catering for students from Year 1 to Year 13. There are 3 other small primary schools throughout the Catlins district. Owaka also has a medical center, the nearest hospital being in Balclutha. The Catlins is governed at local level as part of the Balclutha and Southland districts and is represented at national level as part of the Balclutha-Southland electorate. Geography. The Catlins area covers some 1,900 square kilometers and forms a rough triangular shape, extending up to 40 kilometers inland and along a stretch of coast 100 kilometers in extent. The mouths of 2 large rivers, the Balclutha River in the northeast and the Mataura River in the west, mark its coastal limits. To the north and northwest, the rough bush-clad hills give way to rolling pastoral countryside drained and softened by the actions of tributaries of these 2 rivers such as the Pomahaka River. The rugged, scenic coastline of the Catlins features sandy beaches, blowholes, a petrified forest at Curio Bay, and the Cathedral Caves, which visitors can reach at low tide. Much of the coastline consists of high cliffs up to 200 meters in height, and the land rises sharply from the coast at most points. For this reason, many of the area's rivers cascade over waterfalls as they approach the ocean. The South Island's southernmost point, Slope Point, projects near the southwestern corner of the Catlins. To the west of this lies Waipapa Point, often considered the boundary of the Catlins region, beyond which lies the swampy land around the mouth of the Mataura River at the eastern end of To'a's Bay. But various people place the western boundary of the Catlins region in different places, and some more stringent definitions exclude even Slope Point. A proposed boundary circulated in 2009 by the New Zealand Geographic Board ran roughly north from Slope Point, then in and around the Catlins Ranges and east to Nugget Point. Tourist organizations objected, asking that the boundary be moved further west to include Fortrose. Several parallel ranges of hills dominate the interior of the Catlins, separated by the valleys of the Owaka, Catlins and Taha-Kopa rivers, which all drain southeastwards into the Pacific Ocean. The most notable of these ranges is the McLennan Range. Between them, these hills are often simply referred to as the Catlins Ranges. The northwestern slopes are drained by several tributaries of the Balclutha and Mataura rivers, most notably the Moko-Rita River, which flows mainly westwards, reaching the Mataura close to the town of Wyndham. The highest point in the Catlins, Mount Pi, stands 25 kilometers north-northeast of Waikawa and close to the source of the Moko-Rita River, and marks part of the Otago-Southland border. Other prominent peaks above 600 meters include Mount Rosebery, Catlins Cone, Mount Tautukus, and Ajax Hill. The Catlins has several small lakes, notably scenic Lake Wilkie close to the Tautuku Peninsula. Catlins Lake, near Owaka, actually consists of the tidal estuary of the Catlins River. Shipping has found the Catlins coast notoriously dangerous, and many shipwrecks have occurred on the headlands that jut into the Pacific Ocean here. Two lighthouses stand at opposite ends of the Catlins to help prevent further mishaps. The Nugget Point Lighthouse stands 76 meters above the water at the end of Nugget Point, casting its light across a series of eroded stacks. It was built in 1869–70. The Waipapa Point Light, which stands only 21 meters above sea level, was the last wooden lighthouse to be built in New Zealand, and was constructed in 1884 in response to the tragic 1881 wreck of the Tararua. Both of these lighthouses are now fully automated. Due to its position at the southern tip of New Zealand, the Catlins coastline lies exposed to some of the country's largest ocean swells, often over 5 meters. The region has enjoyed a growing reputation for big wave surfing, with regular competitions, award-winning rides, and coverage on the Discovery Channel gathering publicity for the sport. The Department of Conservation proposed protecting the Papatowai surf break in 2008, citing its national significance for surfing. The landscape of the Catlins features in many poems by celebrated poet Hone Tufari. Born in Northland, Tufari lived in Kaka Point from 1992 until his death in 2008, and became one of the area's best-known inhabitants. His family planned to establish a writer's retreat at his crib there. The film Two Little Boys, starring comedians Brett McKenzie and Hamish Blake, was filmed in the Catlins early in 2011. Climate. The Catlins has a cool maritime temperate climate, somewhat cooler than other parts of the South Island, and strongly modified by the effect of the Pacific Ocean. Winds can reach considerable strength, especially on the exposed coast. Most of the South Island's storms develop to the southwest of the island, and thus the Catlins catches the brunt of many of these weather patterns. The Catlins, and especially its central and southern areas, experiences considerably higher precipitation than most of the South Island's east coast. Heavy rain occurs infrequently, but drizzle is common, and the region averages around 150 days of rain per year. Rain days are spread fairly evenly throughout the year. There is no particularly rainy season in the northern Catlins, and only a slight tendency towards more autumn rain in the southwest. The average annual rainfall recorded at the Tautuku Outdoor Education Center is about 1,300 millimeters, with little variation from year to year. Fine days can be sunny and warm, and daily maxima may exceed 30 degrees Celsius in midsummer. A more usual daily maximum in summer would be 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. Snow is rare except on the peaks even in the coldest part of winter, though frost is quite common during the months of June to September. Typical daily maximum temperatures in winter are 10 to 13 degrees Celsius. History. The first people known to live in the Catlins, Maori of the Katimamo, Waitaha, and Kaitahu iwi, merged via marriage and conquest into the iwi now known as Kaitahu. Archaeological evidence of human presence dates back to approximately 1350 AD. The area's inhabitants were semi-nomadic, traveling from Stewart Island, Rakiura in the south and inland to central Otago. They generally dwelt near river mouths for easy access to the best food resources. In legend, the Catlins forests further inland were inhabited by Meroero. The Catlins may have offered one of the last places where the giant flightless bird, the mowit, could be hunted, and the timber of the forest proved ideal for canoe construction. No formal Maori pa were located in the Catlins, but there were many hunting camps, notably at Papatowai, near the mouth of the Taha-Kopa River. Europeans first sighted the area in 1770 when the crew of James Cook's Endeavour sailed along the coast. Cook named a bay in the Catlins area Molinex's harbour after his ship's master Robert Molyneux. Although this was almost certainly the mouth of the Waikawa River, later visitors applied the name to a bay to the northeast, close to the mouth of the Balclutha River, which itself was for many years known as the Molyneux River. Sealers and whalers founded the first European settlements in the early years of the 19th century, at which time the hunting of marine mammals dominated European economic activity in New Zealand. A whaling station was established on the Tautuku Peninsula in 1839, with smaller stations at Waikawa and close to the mouth of the Balclutha River. The Catlins take their name from the Catlins River, itself named for whaling captain Edward Catlin. He purchased an extensive block of land along Catlins River on the 15th of February 1840 from Kaitahu Chief Hone to Hawaii for muskets and £30. New Zealand's land commissioners declined to endorse the purchase, however, and the Maori received much of the land back after long negotiations ending more than a decade after Catlin's death. During the mid-19th century, the area developed into a major sawmilling region, supplying the newly developing town of Dunedin with timber shipped from the ports of Waikawa and Fortrose. A 70 meters long jetty was built at Fortrose in 1875, although this has long since disappeared. Several shipwrecks occurred along the treacherous coastline during this period. Most notably, one of New Zealand's worst shipping disasters occurred here. The wreck of the passenger steamer Tararua en route from Bluff to Port Chalmers, which foundered off Waipapa Point on the 29th of April 1881, with the loss of all but 20 of the 151 people aboard. Another noted shipwreck, that of the Surat, occurred on New Year's Day in 1874. This ship, holed on rocks near Catlins Mistake 8 kilometers southeast of Tautuku Peninsula, limped as far as the mouth of the Catlins River before its 271 immigrants abandoned ship. A beach at the mouth of the Catlins River is named Surat Bay in commemoration of this wreck. The schooner Wallace and steamer Otago were also both wrecked at or near Catlins Mistake in 1866 and 1876 respectively, and a 4,534-ton steamer, the Manuka, ran aground at Long Point north of Tautuku in 1929. In all, there were 8 shipwrecks of note between 1839 and 1892. After a decline in the 1890s, the logging of native timber expanded into new areas made accessible by an extension of the railway, before petering out in the mid-20th century. One nail in the industry's coffin came with a series of bushfires which destroyed several mills in 1935. The cleared land was used primarily for pastoral sheep and dairy farming, which continues to be a mainstay of the Catlins economy. Much of the remaining forest is now protected by the Department of Conservation as part of the Catlins Conservation Park. For the time of the Great Depression until the formation of the New Zealand Rabbit Board in 1954, rabbits became a major pest in the area, and rabbiters were employed to keep the creatures under control. The trapping of rabbits and auctioning of the skins in Dunedin became a minor but important part of the Catlins area's economy during this time. The area's population has declined from a peak of around 2,700 in 1926 to its current level of around 1,200. This decline has halted in recent decades, with 2008 figures being very similar to those of 1986. Natural history. Wildlife. The Catlins coast often hosts New Zealand fur seals and Hoka's sea lions, and occasionally southern elephant seals can be seen. Several species of penguin also nest along the coast, notably the rare yellow-eyed penguin, as do other seabirds including mollymawks and Australasian gannets, and the estuaries of the rivers are home to herons, stilts, godwards and oyster catchers. Bitterns and the threatened fernbird can also occasionally be seen along the reedy river banks. In the forests, endangered birds such as the yellowhead and kakariki occur, as do other birds such as the tui, fantail and kariru. One of New Zealand's only two native species of non-marine mammal, the long-tailed bat, lives in small numbers within the forests, and several species of lizard are also found locally, including the southern forest gecko. Many species of fish, shellfish, and crustaceans frequent both the local rivers and sea, notably crayfish and power. Nugget Point in the northern Catlins hosts a particularly rich variety of marine wildlife. The establishment of a marine reserve off the coast here, discussed in 1992, 2004 and 2015, has been controversial. Hector's dolphins can often be seen close to the Catlins coast, especially at Porpoise Bay near Waikawa, which is protected as part of the Catlins Coast Marine Mammal Sanctuary, established in 2008. Migratory southern right whales and humpback whales can be spotted along the coastline during winter. Flora. The Catlins features dense temperate rainforest, dominated by podocarps. This is the largest area of native forest remaining on the South Island's east coast, with over 500 square kilometers of forest and neighboring subalpine areas being protected in Catlins Conservation Park. The forest is thick with trees such as rimu, totara, silver beech, mata and kahikatea. Of particular note of the virgin rimu and totara forest remaining in those areas which were too rugged or steep to have been milled by early settlers, and an extensive area of silver beech forest close to the Takahopa River. This is New Zealand's most southerly expanse of beech forest. Many native species of forest plant can be found in the undergrowth of the Catlins forest, including young lancewoods, orchids such as the spider orchid and perching Easter orchid, and many different native ferns. Settlers cleared much of the Catlins coastal vegetation for farmland, but in some areas the original coastal plant life survives, primarily around cliff edges and some of the bays close to the Tautuku Peninsula, these being furthest from the landward edges of the forest. Plant life here includes many native species adapted to the strong salt-laden winds found in this exposed region. The Catlins coastal daisy is unique to the region, and is related to New Zealand's mountain daisies. Tussocks, hebes, and flaxes are common, as are native gentians, though sadly the endangered native sedge-ping owl can now rarely be found. In years when the southern rata flowers well, the coastal forest canopy turns bright red. The rata also thrives in some inland areas. Geology. The geology of the Catlins dates back to over 150 million years ago. when the bedrock of the New Zealand continent was being assembled by thick sediments and volcanic arcs accreting onto the edge of the Gondwana supercontinent in a series of long, thin terrains. The parallel hill ranges of the Catlins form part of the Murihiku terrain, which extends inland through the Hokonui Hills as far west as Mossburn. This itself forms part of a larger system known as the Southland Syncline, which links to similar formations in Nelson, the North Island and even New Caledonia, 3,500 kilometers away. The northeastern boundary of this geologic region is marked by the Murihiku Escarpment, which runs along the southern edge of the dormant hill foot fault line. The Catlins Ranges are strike ridges composed of Triassic and Jurassic sandstones, mudstones and other related sedimentary rocks, often with a high incidence of feldspar. Fossils of the late and middle Triassic where Pan and Kaihikuan stages are found in the area. Curio Bay features the petrified remains of a forest 160 million years old. This represents a remnant of the subtropical woodland that once covered the region, only to become submerged by the sea. The fossilized remnants of trees closely related to modern kauri and Norfolk pine can be seen here. Population and demographics. The Catlins area has very few inhabitants. The region as a whole has a population of only some 1,200 people. Almost all of the Catlins population lies either close to the route of the former state highway running from Balclutha to Invercargill, or in numerous tiny coastal settlements, most of which have only a few dozen inhabitants. The largest town in the Catlins, Owaka, has a population of about 400. It is located 35 kilometers southwest of Balclutha. The only other settlements of any great size are Kakar Point, Waikawa, Tokanui, and Fortrose, which lies at the western edge of the Catlins on the estuary of the Mataura River. Most of the area's other settlements are either little more than farming communities or seasonally populated holiday communities with few permanent residents. An outdoor education center, run by the Otago Youth Adventure Trust, is located at Tautukus, almost exactly halfway between Owaka and Waikawa. The area's population has predominantly European ancestry, with 94.2% of Owaka's population belonging to the European ethnic group according to the 2001 census, compared to 93.7% for the Otago region and 80.1% for New Zealand as a whole. The median income in the same census ranked considerably lower than for most of the country, although the unemployment rate was very low. Economy. The early European economy of the Catlins during the 1830s and 1840s centered on whaling and sealing. The exploitation of the forests for timber started in the 1860s with the rapid growth of the city of Dunedin as a result of the gold rush of 1861–62. In the early 1870s, more timber cargo was loaded at Owaka than at any other New Zealand port. Forestry and sawmilling declined in the late 1880s once the easily accessible timber had been removed. The extension of the railway beyond Owaka breathed new life into these industries. However, with activity peaking during the 1920s, the land cleared of trees largely became pasture. For the 1880s, clearing of land for dairy farming increased, especially in the areas around Taha Kopa and the Owaka River Valley. Considerable sheep and dairy farming continues on the cleared hills on the periphery of the region, and this accounts for much of the Catlins' income. A rural polytechnic specializing in agricultural science is located south of Balclutha, close to the northeastern edge of the Catlins. Fishing and tourism now account for much of the area's economy. The rugged natural scenery, sense of isolation, and natural attractions such as cathedral caves makes the Catlins a popular destination for weekend trips by people from Dunedin and Invercargill, the two nearest cities. A large number of cribs occur at places such as Jacks Bay and Pounawa. Ecotourism is becoming increasingly important to the area's economy, with many of the visitors coming from overseas. Tourism added an estimated $2.4 million to the region's economy in 2003. Transport. The southern scenic route links Fiordland and Dunedin via the Catlins. Here it runs northeast to southwest as an alternative road to State Highway 1, which skirts the Catlins to the northwest. This section of the southern scenic route, formerly designated State Highway 92 but no longer listed as a state highway, winds through most of the small settlements in the area, and was only completely sealed during the late 1990s. Southwest of Otago was surfaced with gravel prior to the time. The settlements of Owaka, McLennan, Papatowai, Tokanui, and Fortrose all lie on this route. A coastal route also parallels the inland highway between Waikawa and Fortrose, but only about two-thirds of this road is sealed. The remaining small roads in the district, all of which link with the former state highway, have gravel surfaces. These roads mainly link the main route with small coastal settlements, although gravel roads also extend along the valleys of the Owaka and Taha-Kopa rivers, linking the main Catlins route with the small towns of Clinton and Wyndham respectively. The gravelled Waikawa Valley Road crosses the hills to join the Taha-Kopa-Wyndham route. Several of the area's coastal settlements have facilities for small boats, but generally only fishing and holiday craft use them. No regular passenger or freight boat service runs to the Catlins. A railway line, the Catlins River Branch, linked the area with the South Island main trunk line from the late 19th century. Construction of this line began in 1879, but it did not reach Owaka until 1896. Construction progressed slowly due to the difficult terrain, and the final terminus of the line at Taha-Kopa was not completed until 1915. The economic viability of the line declined with the sawmills that it was built to serve, and the line was eventually closed in 1971. Parts of the line's route are now accessible as walkways. Among them a 240 meters long tunnel between Owaka and Glen Omaru. Government. The Catlins forms part of the Balclutha Southland electorate in the Parliament of New Zealand. Between 1996 and 2014, the electorate was represented by Bill English of the National Party, who is Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand and a former leader of the opposition. The Catlins area is split between the Balclutha and Southland districts for local government purposes. Most of the Catlins falls in the Balclutha district based in Balclutha, and one of the council's 14 representatives is elected directly from a Catlins ward which is roughly coterminous with this area. The Balclutha district is itself part of the Otago region, controlled administratively by the Otago Regional Council in Dunedin, 80 kilometers to the northeast of Balclutha. The Molyneux constituency of the Orc, which covers roughly the same area as the Balclutha district, elects 2 councillors to the 12-member regional council. Approximately the westernmost one-third of the Catlins area lies in the Southland district based in Invercargill, 50 kilometers to the west of Fortrose. One of the council's 12 elected members represents the To'ato's ward, which contains this part of the Catlins, along with an area around Wyndham and extending along To'ato's Bay towards the Awarua Plain. The Southland district is itself part of the Southland region, controlled administratively by the Southland Regional Council, which is also based in Invercargill. The southern constituency of the SRC, which covers the entire To'ato's ward and extends across the Awarua Plain almost as far as Bluff in the west and Mataura in the north, elects 1 councillor to the 12-member regional council. Education. education. The Catlins area hosts 4 co-educational schools: Tahakopa School, Tokanui School, and Ramahapa School, all of which are primary schools. The Catlins Area School, Owaka, is a combined primary and secondary school. It is the only one of the 4 with more than 100 pupils. The nearest dedicated secondary schools are South Otago High School in Balclutha and Menzies College in Wyndham. The nearest tertiary institution is Telford Rural Polytechnic, located at the edge of the Catlins at Otago, south of Balclutha. Other than this, the nearest tertiary establishments are in Invercargill and Dunedin, the nearest university being the University of Otago in Dunedin. Medical services. A hospital opened in Owaka in 1924, offering a decreasing range of services until its closure during the 1980s. The building and grounds now host a youth hostel and holiday park. Today, Owaka is served by a medical centre and a pharmacy. The Southern District Health Board is responsible for most publicly funded health services in Otago and Southland, including the Catlins. The nearest hospital to most of the area is the community-owned Balclutha Health First in Balclutha. There is another small hospital in Gore, a secondary-level hospital in Invercargill, and a tertiary-level hospital in Dunedin. The last 2 are also university teaching hospitals.